All right, today we're going to unpack what clients are actually saying about the therapy platform CEREVITY, that's CEREVITY. We're going to dig into the feedback to really understand what makes their approach so different and why it seems to be working for some of the busiest people you can imagine.
But first, let me ask you this. Have you ever tried to get into therapy only to find that your own schedule is the single biggest thing standing in your way? If you're a busy professional, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's such a common roadblock, and it's really the first thing we have to tackle here. Okay, so here's what we'll cover. Based on what clients are saying, there are 4 big themes. First, a totally new way of thinking about privacy. Second, doing therapy on your terms. Then we'll get into the idea of going beyond simple validation. And finally, we'll talk about what they call the challenge of real growth.
First things first, privacy. In this day and age, trust is everything, right? Especially when it comes to therapy. And it looks like CEREVITY has built their entire system around making sure clients feel protected from the absolute get-go.
Now this is where it gets kind of interesting. If you go looking for CEREVITY reviews on Google or Yelp, you're just not going to find them. They've made a conscious choice to stay off those public sites. And the reason for that, well, it's a huge part of their whole philosophy.
See, they run everything inside what they call a HIPAA-compliant ecosystem. So what that really means is that any feedback from clients is collected and shared on their own secure system, and it's all completely anonymous. They've decided that client privacy is way more important than getting public praise, making sure there's no digital trail leading back to you.
All right, let's move on to the second big theme, therapy on your terms. This is all about the pure logistics of it. It's about a kind of flexibility that's built for people whose schedules are, let's be honest, an absolute nightmare.
So take a look at this from a client named Monique A. She's a healthcare executive, and she flat out says her calendar is a nightmare. She was totally convinced that, just like every other time she tried therapy, scheduling was going to kill it within a month. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that feeling of dread.
And check this out. This shows you exactly how they solve it. She's had sessions from her car, in a parking garage, a hotel room, during a conference, even from her office when she suddenly had a 30-minute opening. So this isn't just about being online. It's about being incredibly adaptable to the pure chaos of a professional's life.
And it's not just for corporate execs. Here's David R. He's an international pilot. His schedule is all over the place, totally unpredictable. But with this system, he can book a session during a layover in another country or right before a red-eye flight. Those are times that would be completely impossible in any traditional therapy model. So they've clearly figured out the scheduling problem. But what about the therapy itself? That brings us to our third and maybe the most crucial theme, this idea of moving beyond just simple validation and into therapy that actually does good. Just read this quote from Dana M. It's so powerful. 15 years of therapy, and she described it as pleasant, comfortable, and completely useless. Wow, she's pointing out a trap so many people fall into. Therapy that feels really good in the moment, but doesn't actually create any real, lasting change in your life. So here's how they break down the difference. You've got validation therapy on one side. It's comfortable, you're pretty much running the show, and it mostly just feels like venting for an hour. Then you've got growth therapy. It can be challenging, even uncomfortable. You're guided and pushed. And the whole point isn't just to feel better for a moment, it's to create lasting change. The goal shifts from feeling better to actually getting better.
And for Dana, this was the moment everything changed. Her therapist saw her patterns and just called them out. It wasn't about just nodding along. It was about actually interrupting the cycle she was stuck in. And that direct, personalized approach seems to be what CEREVITY is all about.
And all of that leads us right into our final section, the challenge of real growth. Because let's face it, when therapy is actually effective, it's not always easy. It's about looking at things head on so you can get real, tangible results.
Dana just sums this up so perfectly. She says, the thing nobody tells you is that good therapy isn't always supposed to feel comfortable. It's supposed to feel like growth. And anyone who's ever really pushed themselves knows that growth can be pretty uncomfortable. It's about stretching past where you are right now.
And just look at the results of that uncomfortable work. These are not fuzzy feelings. These are concrete, life-changing actions. She ended a toxic friendship that had been going on for a decade. She set a boundary with her mom for the very first time. She stopped automatically saying yes to everything at work, and because of that, her performance actually improved. This is what doing the work really looks like.
And now we're back to Monique, the healthcare executive. She brings it all together, connecting this challenging therapy directly to her own growth, both professionally and personally. She's not just coping with her crazy schedule anymore. She feels like she's becoming a better leader and, well, a better human. So what's the big takeaway here? When you look at all the client feedback, it really boils down to three things. One, it's a deeply private and secure experience. Two, it has this radical flexibility that fits even the most demanding jobs. And three, it's a challenging kind of therapy that's designed for real lasting change, not just for a quick dose of comfort.
And that really leaves us with one last big question. It's a question CEREVITY seems to pose to its clients, and one we can all probably ask ourselves. Is therapy supposed to be comfortable, or is it supposed to work?